What is going on, guys? Mobile Carrier News here. And auction 110, I think that's what, yeah, 110 is rapidly coming up. It is literally close. It's in October. I honestly forgot what date it is, but we're pretty close to it at this point. The last day, all three carriers were supposed to submit their application was September 7th. And some shocking news. It seems like Verizon Wireless, Verizon, the current, I would say reign champion. They're the company that has good coverage. So, AT&T the second best coverage and T-Mobile third. Even though it's kind of reverse for T-Mobile, they lead the leader in 5G. Um, Surprisingly, Verizon is not going to participate in a lot of spectrum on this auction. And it honestly surprises me because usually they always want to grab up the biggest auction. Like we know Verizon, they want to get the huge spectrum. Like lately from January, I honestly forgot which month it was the last auction. I made a video on it. I don't remember what video that is. I literally have to go back and check. But they've been spending billions of dollars on just extra spectrum, trying to scoop up every amount of spectrum they can get. Because it's literally a race to 5G, and surprisingly, Verizon is not going to be participating in this. Well, I mean, it's honestly just it. Can I blame Verizon for not participating? No, not really, because they're focusing on 5G right now. They literally have a huge plate in their hands with nationwide 5G, which is it's not good. 5G's it's too new. It doesn't work. It's not good. Decent in my opinion, especially in California. And they're focusing on their C band and their high end spectrum. Surprised Verizon doesn't really go for low band, but they're focusing on high and mid band spectrum. And so I can see why Verizon is not focusing on that. I mean, yeah, they technically could buy up more spectrum, to focus on it, but I feel like Verizon has enough spectrum as it is. Yeah, they can buy more, but that means they have to spend more billions of dollars. And with just adding everything up, I don't know if I know Verizon has a lot of capital, but I think the last thing Verizon wants to do is to get even more debt just to have a better return on investment, because that's what these companies do. They go into debt and they have to pay it back, and it'll take a while depending if your debt's like $1 billion and you have about $20 billion, you should be fine. But if you have more debt, it's just a pain. I really don't think Verizon wants to overstress with 5G. Yeah, Verizon's going to get a good return on investment. AT&T and T-Mobile, they're all going to get a good return on investment in 5G. But the fact that Verizon is not participating in auction 110 coming up is it's pretty shocking. Honestly thought they would. Now I'm scrolling down through this article, as you can see here. Verizon's like heavily focusing on C-band spending, and what could either happen if Verizon goes through with it. I'm pretty sure they will, but I don't think they'll be buying a lot of spectrum from auction 110. They're going to be buying like few amounts of spectrum that they'll honestly need or use for later. I don't know how Verizon's actually planning it. I do know all spectrum of C-band is deployed almost everywhere in the USA. There's a lot of C-band. It's just currently turned off until they start turning it on in either in October or December. It's coming up very soon with the amount of C-band Verizon is kicking up with. Now, as you can see here, AT&T is in favor of the 3.45 gigahertz of spectrum, which is a huge amount of spectrum. I can see why AT&T, why any carrier is interested in this amount of spectrum, because it will definitely help out your network. It will help it out tremendously. Whether you're in Utah, whether you're in Montana, it will help it everywhere. Now, as you can see here, AT&T wants roughly 180 megahertz of mid-band spectrum for their C-band. This will help them out tremendously. It will help them out very good in the long run with mid-band. I would say mid-band is a very highly favorable amount of spectrum that all carriers are basically focusing on. T-Mobile is focusing on all three, low band, mid band, and high end spectrum. But they're mostly focused on low band and mid band, while Verizon and AT&T are focused on mid band and high end band spectrum of C band. As you can see here, AT&T wants to get about 190 megahertz of upper mid-band spectrum, which is, of course, lower than their current 600 megahertz of spectrum. It's very little in my own opinion. If you're comparing 190 megahertz of spectrum mid-band to 600 megahertz, yeah, it's way less. But I mean, if Verizon can implement better use of 190 megahertz of spectrum to work indoors at mid-band range, like let's say you live at a bottom apartment or a higher apartment, you're going to get better service. And as you can see here, Verizon is also focusing on lowered in spectrum of 180 megahertz of spectrum. This is what I like about Verizon. Yes, they're not spending a lot on spectrum. They're trying to hold off, either not trying to get into more debt or not to be over focused on too many things. Because if Verizon focuses on buying a lot of spectrum and then try to focus on C-band spending plus improving their C-band, I feel like it's too much because all carriers are spending billions of dollars. They're spending a lot of money on C-band, mid-band, and 5G. Like I believe 5G is the biggest all carriers will be spending. Maybe 6G they'll spend more. I'm not too sure about that, honestly. But Verizon is spending 100 megahertz of spectrum. This is what I like about this. Yes, Verizon is not spending a lot of money on C-band. They're not spending a lot of, I mean, sorry, no, not C-band. They're not spending a lot of money on the 345 gigahertz of this auction. They're not spending a lot, but 180 megahertz of spectrum, that's actually very good in my opinion because that amount of low spectrum alone. That's lower than T-Mobile 600 megahertz, but that's beside the point. I'm just comparing that their low band spectrum that can definitely help out Verizon's coverage with indoors because I do struggle with indoor usage. I do remember I also struggled going to a friend's house. Their indoor usage was very limited. I got some 5G and then I switched to LTE and I barely able to download some content on TikTok or just load up a web page. I literally had to use this Wi-Fi. So 5G is and their LTE for indoor for Verizon is not, it's not good, and it's all over the place. As you can see here, AT&T it wants to spend more than $12 billion on their upcoming 345 gigahertz auction. Now this, I can tell AT&T is going. Okay, AT&T is going a different route than Verizon. AT&T is focusing on their C-band and 5G, but it looks like AT&T wants to take more of a risk factor. They want to spend more than $12 billion in the upcoming 3.45 gigahertz of auctions of the spectrum. That is insane. Like AT&T is basically spending their AT&T is basically spending what T-Mobile is spending in a whole year. So that means AT&T literally has cash to burn. Like they have a lot of capital. They've been selling so many things and just getting so much of cash and investment on their hands. AT&T is ready to go. Like they will literally be buying up a lot of spectrum. I could see them buying up massive amounts of spectrum. And it looks like, as you can see here, it looks like T-Mobile is not really focusing on a lot of. Yes, T-Mobile is going to be buying small amounts of spectrum with whatever capital they can use to buy it. But it looks like they're also focusing on their ultra capacity and their 5G because T-Mobile is honestly focusing on their lower mid-band spectrum. And I like that. The less T-Mobile spends, the more they can invest on their service and hopefully improve their service because frankly their service is not really that up to par at the moment. It still has no coverage in a lot of states. I've seen it. I've seen the maps and like it has not very coverage. I do hope with the Sprint merger they can actually, fill in those gaps, those holes and just, make just actually have better coverage because you can't be claiming you have the best 5G or the best LTE when you still don't have coverage in a state that you haven't had coverage for 5 years now. Like you're barely getting any service. But it looks like T-Mobile is locking in some spectrum, so I do like what they're doing there. They're going to be spending massive amounts of billions of dollars. They're focusing on their 2 to 5 gigahertz of spectrum from Sprint, and I just hope I just hope T-Mobile does get their act together because as soon as C-band is deployed and as soon as we get to 2023, that's when competition is going to get fierce. Competition is going to be Basically, everything's going to be rolling like a snowball effect. As soon as you start, it keeps going. Then it goes faster and faster. We're going to be by 2023 very soon. I'm telling you, we're gonna be there very fast. And by that time, all coverage will be updated. By 2023, C-band will be complete for AT&T and Verizon. So hopefully, T-Mobile does improve their service. Hopefully, T-Mobile does get their 2.5 gigahertz of spectrum up to par. Hopefully, their ultra capacity is working better as they claim to be, because I mean, the last thing T-Mobile wants to be is to go last place. And the fact that now they have Dish Network competition, they should be very wary on how they're investing and how they're actually improving their service. Now, as you can see here, T-Mobile could invest around $8 billion to pick up on 31 megahertz of spectrum. Um, that's like very little. That's very little usage to get, but I mean, it's honestly better than nothing. You know, if you want to spend $8 billion to invest 31 megahertz of spectrum to help your service, I would do it definitely. I mean, like, T-Mobile does have some capital. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have a lot of capital, but they want to be very, they want to. I'm pretty sure they want to be conservative. They want to save as much money as they can, because keep in mind, T-Mobile is only spending $12 billion on their amounts of spectrum, and in about 2 years they're going to drop it. Actually, no, I believe T-Mobile is spending around 10 to 12 billion dollars on their whole network alone, and then by 2023 or late 2020, and sorry, no, by 2023 and 2024 they're dropping it to $9 billion. So they're decreasing their amount of usage. So I think spending $8 billion on 31 megahertz of spectrum is a good call, because frankly, in my own opinion, just because T-Mobile and Sprint merged doesn't mean T-Mobile has so much amount of money they can just burn the cash and just invest it and get a better return on investment. I think T-Mobile has a very, strong lead to this with their mid-band and high-end spectrum. And overall, everything's going pretty good. I mean, just because Verizon isn't investing a lot of money into this auction doesn't mean they'll be in trouble. I think Verizon is on a good track here. Like Verizon will only get like 160, 180 megahertz of spectrum, and then they'll get another spectrum. But I think they should be fine, honestly, as long as Verizon puts a good return on investment and focuses on the customers. The same with AT&T and T-Mobile. As long as they can provide better service, and honestly, and frankly, for Verizon, at least a new unlimited data plan, everything can work out fine. I really think everything will be going up to speed. Everything will be on track for what's to come with all these purchases of megahertz and mid-band, high-band spectrum, because everything is going to be going according to plan. At least that's what all carriers will be saying. So let me know what you guys think about this. Do you guys think Verizon is that a good call, not buying them on a spectrum, or just not buying nothing at all and focusing on C-band? I mean, Verizon does have a lot of spectrum on their hands. Do you guys think Verizon needs more, or are they fine? I don't think they're lacking in spectrum at all. They're pretty packed with all the amount of spectrum they have. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.